I'm so excited to see you guys here today. Unbelievable. I just have to breathe this in for a minute. Wow. This is amazing. Every year I walk out and I think it can't get any bigger or any better, and it just seems to get bigger and better, and that's because of you guys. I tell this story. This is our 7th annual summit. The first year I wasn't here, and we had, I think, about 50 people in a little hotel room in Arlington. And then the second year I was here and we had it, and I think we had maybe 100 people in a room. And then it got a little bigger and a little bigger, and now we have 7,500 people registered. It's amazing. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. So exciting to see you all here. All right, let's get started. So Amazon Web Services. What is going on with Amazon Web Services? Well, we're 10 years old now. And in 2016, there's many things that have been happening. But one of the biggest things is that we have 64% year-over-year growth. Pretty phenomenal, right, for a tech company? In addition, we have over 1 million active customers. And how do we know that we have 1 million active customers? Because we do an API call. And we can see that there's 1 million customers utilizing AWS. And you can also have that same activity in your IT, doing an API call and understanding what you're running. In addition to that, we're on a $10 billion run rate, which we're the fastest company, IT company, to reach $10 billion in just under 10 years. But not only that, we are the technology platform of choice. Now, why are we the technology platform of choice? Well, you guys are the obvious reason. You've chosen AWS. But who are those individuals choosing AWS? I love this story because in 2006 when we launched, it was all about the developer. And those developers loved AWS because they could provision IT rapidly. But those individual developers started startups. And now look at all these startups. Amazing startups utilizing AWS today. But there's something really interesting that's happened about startups. They're in public sector. Who would have ever thought startups would be in public sector? Well, that's possible today because they can scale very fast and run on top of Amazon Web Services and take advantage of all those security controls, which we're going to talk about later. But the other thing I like to point out with startups is that they have transformed and disrupted industries in no time. Startups like Airbnb and Uber, if you think that they've completely disrupted industries. Who else is taking advantage? Well, commercial enterprises. Andy Jassy always talks about this. He says that people said, commercial enterprises, they'll never use AWS. No way. Well, guess what? We have thousands of large enterprises around the world not only taking advantage of AWS to be disruptive for their mission and business, but they're going all in on AWS. And this is just an example of a few that you see. Public sector customers, my favorite, of course. Well, I can tell you, 5.5 years ago when I started this business, everyone said, Teresa, what are you doing there? Nobody's going to use cloud. This cloud thing, it's not built for government. It's not built for education. Well, guess what? They were wrong. It's completely built for our public sector customers. And the breadth and depth of our customers taking advantage is amazing. And we're learning every day from our customers what kind of workloads that they're delivering. And I have some numbers to share for you. So again, I will say early on, I had a hard time finding what customers were using AWS in public sector in the beginning. But these numbers continue to grow. And last year, I shared with you that we had 2,000 government organizations, 5,000 educational institutions, and 17,500 not-for-profits. Not bad, huh? Well, let's fast forward. So today I'm announcing we have 2,300 government organizations, 7,000 educational institutions, and 22,000 not-for-profits. But let me tell you something about these numbers. It's not just the numbers themselves that matters, but it's actually the amount of workloads that these organizations are running on Amazon Web Services. So it's the depth and breadth of actually what they're doing. All right, now let's talk about some more growth. Does anybody in here remember GovCloud? I hope a few of you. All right, good. I'm glad to hear that because we launched 2011 GovCloud specifically for the U.S. government and those unique workloads. And I still have to thank NASA JPL, Tom Sostrom, who said, you guys have to have a GovCloud that's ITAR. Well, fast forward today, and let me tell you, GovCloud is growing rapidly. We are at 221% usage year over year, with amazing workloads like ITAR, CGIS, lots of these kind of workloads that government wants to take advantage of in GovCloud. But not only is there usage, we actually have this amazing ecosystem. And the ecosystem said, okay, you have GovCloud, we're building workloads, but you need to make sure that people understand that we have a competency, we have a program, a skill, and we want to let people know about it. So today we're announcing our AWS GovCloud Skill Partner Program. And I really want to thank all the partners who have already achieved this skill in the consulting side and the technology side. Now, on the technology side, this is really interesting because this is creating a whole ecosystem because they're building a platform that all of our customers can take advantage of. So thank you, and I hope the slide triples by next year. We look forward to you getting your badge for the AWS GovCloud Skill Program. Okay, now, we've always talked about two main principles in the public sector business, which is paving the way for disruptive innovation and making the world a better place. Because our customers are mission-driven, and they want to utilize the cloud to experiment, fail fast, recover fast, but also deliver those solutions that are really important to what works for them. So let me talk to you about a few of our innovative customer segments that are taking advantage of AWS. The first industry is the financial regulatory industry. And I have people say, why are they adopting the cloud? Because they seem super regulated and they seem like they're very hard. That would be hard for them to make change. Well, actually, they're changing pretty fast because they need to modernize. And they have a lot of things they have to analyze, a lot of information they have to get out to the markets. And here's 4 examples. The Financial Conduct Authority in the UK is going all in on AWS. And they basically said, look, we need to improve our service and control risk better. And we think we can do that much faster in the cloud. Then we have the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago. And I love this story because they're just like a commercial bank. They've said to us, we need to provide services faster to our customers. We're going too slow, and cloud can help us move faster. We have the SEC, who's looking at doing, they reconstruct the market's events in real time with one of our partners. A very, very cool program where they dynamically look at every market event, assessing if there's any fraudulent activity or there could be any change in the market that could cause rapid disruption. The other customer that is near and dear to our heart is FINRA. And FINRA has grown on AWS very rapidly, and they've challenged us to do new things with them, and I love that. They've already said that they've saved over $20 million in counting, and they are moving all their analytics to AWS. So, the justice and public safety space. I would be remiss if I didn't say we shouldn't take a moment and remember all those victims in Orlando Horrible, horrible, tragic event. While I know that information technology is not a solution to all these things, we believe that IT can be a big driver in stopping some of these crimes, in being able to be preventative. We need to do that. We all need to work together. And the justice and public safety market is a very important market to us. We're working extremely aggressively with our partners like Motorola, trying to solve for these problems. So let's work together to do that. We have some solutions that we continue to look at and develop around programs like CJIS. And it was interesting, not even a year ago, I was hearing this stuff about there was only one vendor out there who could do CJIS. I was like, no way. AWS said, no way. We do CJIS. We need to make sure that we're evangelizing that we can do CJIS. And as a result, our team has gotten super aggressive. We're signing CJIS addendums. In fact, we just announced one last Friday with Colorado, and there's more that's going to come. So AWS is all in with justice and public safety, and you're going to continue to see us take these programs around the world. So we're focusing on helping our law enforcement do the most mission-critical work possible. Now, this is a program I love, public data sets. So there's so many data sets out in the public sector space. And in the early days, one of the things we heard a lot from researchers was they wanted the ability to access data sets for the research. So we've created an open data team and a scientific computing team. And one of the goals of the open data team was let's bring in as many of the curated data sets as we can on AWS. And a lot of these data sets were previously stored in data centers that you couldn't get access to. It was very expensive. You would have to go out and build a data center, get the servers in, and then hope that you could have access. Well, fast forward to AWS, and now we have many data sets running on AWS. Now, why does this matter? This matters because for free, we've basically put all these data sets on AWS, and we're opening them up to educational institutions, not-for-profits, the individual educator, and they can go out and find this information and do their research. So an example, NOAA. We work with NOAA for their weather data set, NEXRAD, and there's 160 radar sites up on AWS today. The 3,000 rice genome is something we did with an organization called IRRI out of the Philippines. And what we did is we've taken the 3,024 rice varieties out of 89 countries, and they're hosted on AWS, and they're trying to look at the agri-issues of rice. They want to make sure that these rice strands, they understand everything about them, and that they're never extinct because so much of the population depends on rice. Landsat, the U.S. Geological Survey organization, we host the Landsat. And the last one I talk about all the time, you guys are probably tired of hearing it, but I'm very proud of, is our 1,000 genome. And the 1,000 genome is something we did about 4 years ago now when people said it wasn't possible. And we worked with the National Institutes of Health, and we brought the 1,000 genome data set into AWS, first time it ever been done. The first week, we had 3,400 new researchers crowdsourced on it, and now today you can see there's 2,500 individuals that have been mapped with 26 different populations. And if you Google this, you'll see there's been thousands of research papers written on this. This is just the example of what cloud does. It opens the world of opportunities up for everyone. Now, I talked about these three segments, lots of innovation going on there, but there are patterns of innovation that we see. So those you can see, those industries are moving really fast, but some of the patterns of innovation I thought I would share is one, removing constraints. Our customers do not want to work with constraints when they're trying to deliver mission. And in the old world of IT, lots of constraints, and we still hear this today. You have to go out, procure your servers, wait 6 or 7 months for them to come in, bring them in, set them up, put your security configurations around them, and hope that your budget works around all that. So we've said, let's not worry about that. Let's try to unbound the creativity of our public sector customers, give them more control and access to what they want to do. Utilize IT to really solve the business mission problem. It's going to enable this in many, many ways. But how? How do our customers, how are they able to do that? Well, let's start with the AWS platform. I'm going to quickly go through the platform and describe the elements of our platform. But I'm not going to go into too much detail because that's the point of the 70 sessions. When you really want to go deep, make sure you get out and understand from the sessions. So today we have 12 regions around the world. 12 and growing. We have 5 more coming, India, UK, and Canada. And then we're building another region here in the US and Ohio, and a second location in China. And there's another region that we have that many of you know about in this room that's not on this map. But then, of course, we also have GovCloud. But in addition to those, we have 56 edge locations, and we continue to add edge locations to ensure that our customers have access to that, to all the AWS cloud. It makes it faster. Then the second area, which we're going to go into a little bit later, deeper, but is security and compliance. It's job 1 for us, day 0, as we think about it. From everything to identity and access control, key manage, the ability to configure and audit. Better, faster, cheaper with security by design. The third area is just infrastructure services. So we have 70 major services across all the AWS service families. But in the compute side, we have 10 families with 40 instance types. We have storage, database services, and networking, and monitoring. Well, at AWS reInvent this last year, we heard a lot about some new tools, and one of the tools that we announced was, ta-da, something called a snowball. We heard that you all wanted the ability to take petabyte scale data and move it into the AWS cloud. Well, if you have the opportunity, make sure that you go hear Bill Vass today, who is our VP of Storage Services. And for those of you, I bet a bunch of you know Bill in this room. He's been around the public sector space for a long time. Bill, in fact, was the deputy CEO at Defense, and he also ran Sun Public Sector. I've known Bill for a long time. We're proud to have him at AWS. And he listened to our customers, built this. I love this. This is a Kindle right here. So it's literally shippable. You ship this. It's indestructible. I've seen them drop these things from the ceiling. It won't break, I promise. So again, petabyte scale, and you're going to continue to see AWS innovate on storage. Now, platform services. Platform services, we've invested a lot here as we continue to build up. From everything from analytics to application and developer, acceleration, our mobile services. But additionally, the big thing about our platform services, it drastically reduces the amount of code that you have to write to get your applications built. In fact, we're hearing from our customers, they're actually able to build a new application now faster than actually rewriting it from an old system. So it really makes the developers much more agile. And for many of you who don't understand the DevOps model that we use in cloud, it's all about control. So a developer actually develops, operates, and innovates on the application that they're building. Now, I put IoT here, but we're going to talk more about IoT. It's the hot new topic, but you're going to hear a lot about IoT. Enterprise services. Of course, this is important to this crew and here and all our enterprise customers because they need to migrate faster. They want to migrate. We hear a lot about how do we migrate? Using the snowball. You can use tools like that. But building hybrid applications is we know there's lots of applications running in your data center that you want to take advantage of. So we continue to innovate on hybrid tools. Additionally, virtual desktops, corporate types of email, collaboration. We also have technical support, professional services, and many, many other things just for our enterprise customers. And last but not least is the marketplace, which we have many categories. We have over 35 categories, 2,700 listings, 925 ISVs, and 205 million instance hours. This is very disruptive. Marketplace is very disruptive. Customers around the world tell me they will go on Marketplace and try a tool that they had never thought about utilizing and build two architectures very rapidly and make a decision on which one's the right one for pennies. But bringing this kind of disruption into government, who can imagine having a marketplace in government? Well, guess what? One of our customers, the intelligence community, said they wanted marketplace. So we have built and launched for the U.S. intelligence community in April an AWS marketplace. And this is part of the C2S program, which is bringing agility into the 17 intelligence agencies so they can in real time take advantage of innovation. We know our IC customer has always been an innovator, but I think this is really disrupting the acquisition model of how our government customers can take advantage of IT. Now, speaking of being innovative, one of our customers has continually impressed us with what they're doing. They were born in the cloud, the Michael J. Fox Foundation, and they have personified being unbounded in what they're doing. So if you could please help me welcome Deborah Brooks, co-founder and executive vice president of the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Disease, to the stage. Please give her a big hand.
Good morning. I want to thank Teresa and Andy for having me. Our foundation holds much in common with AWS. We were both born in the digital age. We both question everything. We attempt to leverage technology as a first solution for complex problems. We aspire to have our impact resonate around the globe. But one thing we don't have in common is the goal to celebrate anniversaries. We are happy to say to AWS, congratulations on 10 years, but in our organization, what we're trying to do is actually go out of business, so no anniversary celebrations for us. Brain diseases are becoming more prevalent with our aging population. 3 out of 5 people will develop a brain disease in their lifetimes. Our foundation was launched in 2000 to accelerate development of a cure for Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's is the second most common brain disease after Alzheimer's, with an estimated 5 million people worldwide. That's compared to maybe 30 million people worldwide with Alzheimer's. And Parkinson's is the 14th leading cause of death in the US. The disease kills brain cells that produce dopamine, and it causes a range of symptoms beyond the rest tremor that most people are accustomed to seeing, from rigidity to slow movement, depression, and cognitive dysfunction. There is no cure, and in the vast majority of cases, we still don't even know the cause. Getting to better treatments is hard. First of all, we actually don't know very much. It's also expensive. Central nervous system disorder drugs cost about $1.5 to $2 billion to develop. And by the way, that's just the drugs that help us treat symptoms. We don't have anything that helps us modify the course of the disease. And of course, it takes way too long. Believe it or not, 20 to 30 years to develop our symptomatic treatments. While there are many elements about the medical research enterprise that are broken, we decide we have to be sober about what it takes, but we are going to embrace the best of what we know. and we work hard to illuminate the most promising avenues towards a breakthrough. It's not just about advancing drugs. We've spent hundreds of millions of dollars advancing drug targets, but we've come to appreciate it's also about measuring if the drugs are working, and if those drugs can in fact have an impact on the symptoms or progression of the disease. We're proud to have gained a reputation for leadership and collaboration among academics, the pharma industry, the regulators, and the people and families who are living with Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's was first characterized by James Parkinson in 1817, so nearly 200 years ago. Our bigger world is practically unrecognizable from his, yet astonishingly, we are still diagnosing and measuring Parkinson's disease in nearly the same way we did back then. In this age of instant information, cloud computing, and new medicine, specialists diagnose and measure the progression of Parkinson's disease by asking their patients to do this and walk down the hall, measure their arm swing, take a look, push them back, see how they fall. Yep, those are our best tools, blunt as they are, and with a sampling rate of 1 to 2 times a year. Not only is this insufficient for a physician who's working to try to understand how is this patient doing, where are they in the course of their disease, and try to provide the best care, but it turns out that the lack of our ability to measure the symptoms and understand the underlying progression of disease has a real negative impact on our ability to speed drug development. At the Michael J. Fox Foundation, we've been leveraging technology to try to revolutionize this status quo. And we've been trying to create some solutions for the scientific community so that we can attack some of our biggest challenges, such as, can we better understand the disease, its symptom profiles, and its progression? And what could we do to put all that data out for the scientific community worldwide? Everyone engaged in the Parkinson's community wants more data. It's become clear that so much more of this data actually needs to come from the patients themselves. In addition to funding hundreds of drug targets to build the therapeutic pipeline, our foundation has also launched a series of landmark initiatives that center around collecting, analyzing, and sharing patient data. It started in a significant way with a longitudinal clinical study called the Parkinson's Progression Marker Initiative. That was back in 2010, and since then, we've enrolled about 1,000 volunteers. As we've collected, standardized, stored, and shared this extensive data set, it includes brain scans, clinical assessments, biosamples such as blood, cerebral spinal fluid, urine, and DNA, all with the hope of better defining and predicting the disease course. We have invested tens of millions of dollars just in this one study to map the disease. And the value seems to be there. We've been able to attract over 20 industry partners who've stepped up to help share the costs. That tells us we're on to gathering the right information. This effort is generating new insights about Parkinson's, in part through an open access data structure, through which data has been downloaded over 500 million times by researchers across the globe. And this is a study that's still going on. So as soon as we had enough data so it was de-identifiable, we put it out, and researchers have been downloading and publishing papers and gaining insights. Of course, we'd like to quadruple the size of this study, because we know that having more data can lead to faster impact. More data, real-time sharing, faster progress. But even when we were building the infrastructure to find those first 1,000 patients, we began to realize, and this was 10 years ago, that we actually needed to rally a far greater number of patients, not only for that study, but for all clinical studies in PD, where the standard for enrollment is a meager 1 patient per month at a site. So when you think about what it takes to develop drugs, if you can't get folks into these trials, you are going to slow your progress. And just the time from phase 1 to FDA approval, which is typically 10 to 15 years, almost half of that time is devoted simply to recruiting the patients. So the year after PPMI launched, we built Fox Trial Finder to meet that need. It's kind of a match.com. You go online, you put in a profile, you tell us a little bit about your disease, any family history, your symptoms, what medications you're taking, and we try to match you with clinical trials in your area that need you. And we provided an inner tool way for you to connect to the clinical sites and a backdoor for the clinical sites to actually look at profiles and maybe ping some folks and say, hey, you might be a good fit for our trial. Today, we have more than 56,000 people registered in that tool. This helps support patient recruitment. By the way, I should say, anybody in this audience who has a loved one with Parkinson's, please get them online. Go to Fox Trial Finder. And we need people who aren't patients but are related to patients. You too can get in this and help us make a difference. After we launched Fox Trial Finder, we realized there's an entire untapped pool of people who weren't going to show up and conveniently be located near the study that needed them, but could do self-reporting of their own data to give us greater insights into the lived experience of disease, the so-called phenotypic data. Ideally, we can match significant phenotypic data with the 3 terabytes of data in an individual's genome scan. Now you're talking about getting big data connected for Parkinson's. Given the heterogeneity of Parkinson's disease, for self-reported data to be useful, we need to collect it at scale. Frequent inputs from thousands of contributors. Our foundation is a trusted leader in the field, and it's likely the only one really positioned to do this. We have the ability to engage the patients, to collect the data, and mind you, it needs to be the right data, and then effectively make it available to the care, research, and even the regulatory communities. So we set about building a virtual research study called Fox Insight. Our Fox Trial Finder community and beyond are offered the opportunity to contribute to research as part of their daily routines. No visit to the doctor or research setting required. We've built web and mobile portals, both powered by state-of-the-art data computation algorithms that turn vast oceans of information into vital insights for drug development. Technology may enable us to go faster and further. As part of Fox Insight and in partnership with Intel, we are piloting the use of wearable sensors to passively, objectively, and constantly measure Parkinson's symptoms, and again, trying to get that at scale. Although big data may be the norm for many of you in this room today, this is a relatively new and exciting type of data for the Parkinson's world, and it's a seismic improvement over this. Imagine patients now can put on a wearable device, a Nike Fuel Band. In our study, they're using smartwatches, and transmit data via their smartphones to the cloud. We can monitor patients' movements, their tremor, sleep quality, even any measurable element of Parkinson's disease 24/7. And we collect about 150 data points per second, which is over 4 million data points per person per day. Since our beta launch last year, we have 4,000 participants enrolled in Fox Insight, and we're conducting 5 studies now to try to validate the power of this patient-reported data and the objective data that's being captured from the wearables. We have already collected nearly 1 million hours of watch data alone. We are thankful for the opportunity to store that data in an efficient and secure manner on AWS, since every dollar we save in the cost of providing this data to the world goes right back into research. We are grateful to Intel, who is using machine learning to develop algorithms to organize that data so we can report it back in real time, the insights that we're finding to physicians and researchers. And we really hope that this can be used to transform care and the clinical trial setting. As you can see, our relationship with data and information is a case study in evolution. And the complexity has led us to realize that we likely have an endless appetite for innovation and technology. But our tools are only as powerful as the networks of patients and families we can mobilize to use them, and our ability to share that data with the global scientific and drug development community. We've come a long way from our earliest days when technology literally meant a website that looked like a movie trailer that was created from some of Michael's friends in Hollywood. We're grateful now to have real technology partners, many in this room, and with their help and your help in Parkinson's, we are shifting state-of-the-art to replace status quo. And that is helping us, we believe, speed our progress on a path to finding a cure for Parkinson's. Thank you.
So Debbie, I'm going to give you this. This is our just hot off the presses AWS IoT button. And this is for you, for all the innovation that you're doing at the Michael J. Fox Foundation and for your passion and love of what you're doing.
Great. Thank you so much, Teresa.
Thank you for being a disruptor. Thank you. All right, now let's talk about moving fast or having control. Moving fast without sacrificing control. Our customers want to do both. They don't want to have to say, do I go really slow and have no control over security, or what do I do here? Well, guess what? AWS has created a series of services and certifications to ensure that our customers can both move fast, have control, and stay secure. So again, move fast or stay secure. Well, let's talk about why our customers trust our security. And they know that we are the #1 platform of choice when it comes to cloud for security and compliance. And this slide continues to grow more and more every year. Why should you trust us when it comes to security? Well, for a variety of reasons I'll go into, but #1 is we have an army of third-party auditors that are in our data centers, looking at our data, working with our security and compliance team to ensure that we are meeting and exceeding the security and compliance requirements of our customers. Every year, we hear from our customers more and more the things that are important to them when it comes to security and compliance. Like, of course, I'll point out for this one, FedRAMP. We're very pleased that we were the first large cloud provider to achieve the FedRAMP compliance. And we continue to update that and work with the FedRAMP team in the U.S. government. But since that time, we've achieved many more. Everything from CGIS, obviously, to the Glacier Vault Lock for the SEC. Of course, the government of the UK, we've worked with them. We have MTCS and IDA from Singapore, IRAP. We have FIPS, HIPAA, on and on and on, SOC 1, SOC 2. So when a customer says something's important to them, then it's important to us. And we continue to work to overachieve with them. Now, we also have the broadest set of services and applications when it comes to security and compliance. And by the way, this doesn't stop. This is evolutionary and revolutionary. It continues to go. It continues to flow. I like to talk about our security in what I think is a meaningful way, and our customers seem to really understand, which is when we build infrastructure, we build it with security by design, when we build that up. When we build our services, we build the services with security and all the compliance configurations and controls that I just shared with you. But then we have another secret weapon called our partners. And the partner ecosystem continues to grow in a massive way around the security and compliance space, where they build tools that are specialized for different customer sets. But then we have the AWS tools and resources. So if you go to the AWS website and you search security, we have white papers, webinars, tools, architecture designs, but it doesn't stop there. Our solution architects will help you with a well-architected program to ensure that your architecture is set up properly. We have tools like Inspector. We announced Inspector last year at reInvent, and Inspector is a tool that when you build an application, you can run Inspector across and it will tell you if you have any holes, it will make suggestions, and then with those suggestions, we'll actually help you to update and make sure that you have the right configuration from those suggestions. But we also have programs like Trusted Advisor, which is an automated program that tells you if you have ports open, it'll recommend instance types. So we continue to add more and more. In our partner ecosystem, we have folks like Trend Micro and Telos, who continues to update and run new programs that are technically available to our customers. So, security is job zero. AWS takes care of the security of the cloud, and you define your security in the cloud. We have something called a joint responsibility model, and in that responsibility model that we share, the shared responsibility model, it doesn't mean that we just leave you out there on your own. It's all those tools. We provide you new ways. We want to make sure that you never fail, so we continue to provide you tools and resources to make sure you're successful as you define your security in the cloud. Because it's important that we have that shared model together, because we can build the greatest and most secure infrastructure and tools, but you have to make sure also that you're taking care of what you're building from your application perspective. But you're not alone. Just remember, you're not alone in this together. We're working with you. So, you can move fast and stay secure. It doesn't have to be or. And that's what we want to make sure you get from today, and hopefully you'll attend some of this sessions so you can even continue to learn and understand more deeply about our security and compliance program. Now, with that, I have another customer joining me on stage today who knows firsthand about how critical it is to stay secure. The Department of Veterans Affairs maintains highly sensitive data of our nation's veterans. From disability claims to health information, they have to stay secure. So I'd like to invite on stage, and please welcome her, the Assistant Secretary for Information and Technology and the CIO of the VA, Laverne Council. She is definitely a change agent, and she's moving fast. So Laverne, please welcome to the stage.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, that music sounds very exciting as we think about everything that's going on. Thank you so much, Teresa and Andy, for this opportunity to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is that aha moment, the thing that motivates me as I think about all the work we have to do within Veteran Affairs. It is quite an experience, and I'm going to share a little bit of that with you today. So as we think about technology, and in particular what it means to people, I like to think about it as it's part of our DNA. I'm sure many of you have a device on your wrist. You use it to see how many steps you made today. You use it to see how many calories. Our docs use technology to figure out where we are, what our electronic health record is saying about us, and ultimately, it's how we talk to everyone else and how we really plan our lives. Approximately 15 years ago, this wasn't the truth, and it is now. And I believe it's becoming more and more part of our truth and our transformation and what we can become. And so the real opportunity is to think how you can make that real. You know, how does it go from being a concept to a reality? And that's the thing that creates that moment when you know you've made a difference. And at the VA, it's our mission to really make that difference for the veterans' sake. At the end of the day, it's a mission-oriented organization and agency, and our primary purpose is to enable and keep the promise that Lincoln made, which was to care for him who should have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan. by serving and honoring the men and women who are America's veterans. And I'm sure all of us in this room understand the importance of that promise, but also the importance and how we can do it and how we can leverage a secure technology to make that real. So for me, it's a question of how do you get from the idea to a real solution? How do you make it pertain to that veteran? How do you create an environment inside of what I would say is one of the older bureaucracies in the government? Now, I came from private life. I had never worked in a public domain, so getting people to understand and accept technology is always different. How we accept it, how we create our own DNA, how we use it is a personal experience. And so I believe the solution often lies in perspective. You can have the perspective of the coder and the developer, which is my idea is always the best idea, so therefore you should use it. Or, I say that as an ex-COBOL assembler person myself, or you can say, I got to think about meeting the requirements and making that work. And I would say that that's sort of old school. And I think we have to start thinking in terms of who the product is really for, and that's the veteran. And in our case, that person, those people, that experience is what really creates the opportunity. So when we think about it, we're really encouraging ourselves to think through that experience, not just think about what the product is. And so when I arrived as an appointee in June last year, and after confirmation in June, sworn in July, I knew I had exactly 18 months to figure this out. Now, 18 months is not a long time. And certainly for those that decided, well, we'll just wait out our time, 18 months, you'll burn it. The reality is, with technology, that's not the case. The fact is, if we start thinking about the experience, the opportunity is right in front of us. So we had to envision what was most important, where to start first, how to get to that aha, I got it. And that was key. And so with the team thinking through what it would take, sort of coalescing on how we felt it would matter, we really began the mission of defining the mission, the vision, the change necessary, and ultimately adopting the change. Deciding on the change and not adopting it is not really driving anything. So the issue of continuously assessing and making the change again and doing it real time means that you're driving to an outcome, not just an activity. It means that you're actually knowing that you're going to get something done. And you're not working on perfection, but you're working on action to impact. And if the experience is about the veteran experience, then we're putting ourselves in their shoes. And if that's the case, you drive to a faster solution and one that's more applicable to their needs. And so when you start thinking about the whole process of mission, change, vision, the adoption, the change again, the reinvention to come up with the outcome, we feel that you have the best opportunity to really drive away from just thinking about policy and process to really driving to the experience. See, today, many of our veterans have to opt in. They have to opt into a process. I would like to assume they're all in as they come out of active duty and have them opt out. And that they would very seldom want to opt out because the experience will be so useful, so helpful to them in all ways, not just in health, not just in a benefit, but in the benefits to their children, to the benefits to their spouses, to the realities of all the things that we have to make sure that they have rights to, but they also feel comfortable in assessing. So the reality for us is that we have to really think about reinvention and adopting new processes. And we decided that. And our biggest new process in full adoption was really around piloting a change in how we were going to do our programs. How are we getting our programs done faster, cheaper, and better? How are we going to ensure that the products we delivered really changed an experience, not just created another application? because we do not need another application. So when we started working on this, it was driven really around our core area of program project management. And we went about replacing our product called PMAS, which was our portfolio management process, to one called Veteran Focused Integration Process, or VIP. And the VIP process was not just about having a new process. No, it was about shortening the time to delivery and making sure that the delivery was focused on veteran experience going in, and that as much of the capability and security was at the beginning of the process so that nothing stopped you from deploying it. And so when we looked at it, we started merging various processes, calendars, the skills needed to make that really happen, the direction in which we integrated things on an enterprise level, not in a silo. And for that change intervention and that whole pilot process showed us a number of key opportunities to leverage this skill as our control tower. The thing that was going to make sure that whatever we did was really going to support that veteran that was so important to us. So as we started looking at this process, we were able to actually do some, I would call, miraculous things. We took our entire development cycle down from 6 months to 3. And in doing it in half the time, we were also able to reduce our overhead by 80%. We were able to also get us down to one change calendar from, I think it was 60, and down to one release calendar. We know the productivity gain is something that we can use to create more productivity and reward for the vet. And so as we think about what we do at the VA, we have to think about that experience, put ourselves into their boots, think about the need to secure their data, to treat their data better than anybody's ever treated ours, to make sure that they know that we have their backs, we got their six. And so at the end of the day, we're always thinking about that tomorrow, not just today. See, I've never been a maintainer. I'm not good at that. I just am not. I'm a change agent. I like to see things work. I like to see them work quickly, and I like to see them work for those that benefit most. And so there's nothing wrong with dreaming. Absolutely nothing. The fact is, innovation and technology allows you to dream and innovate in ways that nothing else is done in our lifetime. And I'm happy to say I could be a part of that. The gray hair shows it. And so when we think about embracing new solutions and collaborating and engaging, we have to think about the people, because there's real people at the end of everything that we create. There's folks that are counting on us that what we do will enable someone else to do their job better, or will actually enable that veteran to receive the data, the information in the way that he needs it or she needs it to enable the best health care that they can get. So we have to change those perspectives and not just processes, but don't misunderstand me. We all know that good process is the key to great technology. And you can have the best technology and a bad process. And what do you have? Bad technology with a bad process. And so the objective really is to go beyond the technical requirements of thinking, feeling, and focusing on that end user experience, what their needs are, and putting them first. Now, that's not actually an easy thing to do, because it requires that you move yourself aside. It requires that you embrace new principles. And so the first month of arriving, our new principles were focused on 4 key things and 4 key things only: accountability, transparency, innovation, and teamwork. With those 4 things, we know any team can be successful. Any team can be successful. So at the end of the day, we think about the bigger picture. As I mentioned, the mission was for those who have borne the battle and their orphans and children. See, this is a family affair. It includes all those people that matter to the veteran, and it includes the people that have a right to the benefits that those veterans have achieved and earned. Because all of us have that moment when we want that aha, when we realize innovation begins with understanding the people who will use it. And technology is at its best when it's being used to change an experience. I thank Amazon because they certainly have changed my experience. I'm sure they have changed your experience, have saved me much time from shopping, actually. My husband sees the cardboard. We're going to work on the cardboard problem, but long and short, it is about the people. People use the technology, and ultimately it's our job to ensure that it changes their experience. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I think this is, yeah.
Under the price go?
I think we'll have to make sure, let's
Have
check
to
with
make
their compliance. I have my attorneys right here. See them right there?
Yeah.
They're watching me.
Yeah. Okay.
This, Laverne is a true innovator for our veterans. And her platform is about the vets, period. End of discussion.
That's it.
You and the secretary, I love that. And this is about being an innovator
Oh, thank you.
for you. This is an AWS IoT button, and it's not activated, but it's it'll be configured for you when you're ready.
Okay,
all right?
terrific.
Thank you for all you
I
do.
appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
Thank
Give Laverne
you.
a big hand. Thank you all. Awesome work with our veterans. Let's all support our veterans. They need it, let me tell you. Don't they? So the next pattern that we're seeing is observe and connect. Our customers want to be able to see and observe what they're doing and be able to connect their systems in a way that matters. They want to be able to make those connections through data and analytics without a lot of complexity going on. Because I hear our customers say a lot of times, I have a ton of data, but I don't have the information that I need. So our goal is to make sure that they have not just, again, the data itself, but the information that's required from those massive analytics that they can get in real time. So there's some core components of data analytics. And again, a lot of the FUD I hear a lot of times is AWS is not, they don't do big data kinds of things. They don't help us there. They don't do that massive data processing. Well, guess what? We have so many core services that really support big data workloads of any type. Everything, again, from storage, all types of tiers of storage, to our search function, to Redshift for data warehousing. When we introduced Redshift, Redshift was so driven by customer feedback. Over 90% of the services we create are driven by customer feedback. But Redshift took off like crazy. It was 1/20th the cost of a regular data warehousing tool. So it's on demand, you pay for what you use, and then you go into Kinesis, streaming, live streaming. Well, everything is streaming today, and you want to be able to take those live streams, and from those live streams create real-time data. What's going on? Is the data streaming? How do you understand it? How do you know what's coming from it? In fact, we have a customer that I love to talk about, which is Ivy Tech. And you're like, Ivy Tech, why are they important? Well, they're the largest community college in the United States. And they have over 170,000 students registered each year, and they keep their class registration, they keep open enrollment going for actually 2-year periods at a time. So it's continuously going, continuous classes. And they have an ongoing database of students of about 1.7 million. And the one thing Ivy Tech wanted to be able to do was look at student outcomes. They wanted to be able to determine if their students were going to be successful or not. So they used massive data, and now through that, they know within 2 weeks if the student is actually going to be successful. So they've understood through patterns of behavior of these students if they're going to be successful. And I can tell you from just being on a university board of trustees for 5 years, it's one of the things that we are concerned about the most. Are students going to be successful? Are they going to graduate? How do we know that? And there are patterns that you can begin to see. And this is a new thing in education where they're starting to look at analytics to determine what are students doing or not doing that allows them to be more successful. But in addition to this, Ivy Tech actually found other things out from the data. They determined that they had some issues with student loan processing. So through the big data, they've actually determined and found new things that are actually happening. But the other interesting thing is the 2-week period, 81% accuracy, which I think is pretty good. So not only have they been able to get this data, but it's 81% accurate. All right, now let's talk about moving your data to the cloud. Well, we already showed you the S3. We showed you the Snowball, which obviously is one of the tools that makes things go faster. But our customers tell us a lot. We want to be able to move the data to the cloud so we can actually do more with the data. And one of the things that we found early on in the public sector space is there's a tool called Direct Connect that many of our customers use to directly upload their data from their data center into the AWS cloud. So that's a tool, that's a private connection, and many of our public sector customers are taking advantage of Direct Connect. And then, of course, there's real-time streaming, which we just talked about, with a tool that we have called Kinesis, that you can not only real-time stream it, but you can massively upload it in that streaming and analyze it at the same time. So through all these devices, then, of course, now you're hearing about the Internet of Things, where there's billions and billions of sensor data being created, and there's got to be a way to analyze that and understand, is it valuable or not? So, can we make it easier to actually collect, store, and analyze, and not just do that, but act on the data from these connected devices? And you can see if any of you are shoppers on Amazon, does anybody have a dash button? If you ever have a dash button, that's sort of equivalent to what I've been giving our speakers today, where you can hit your dash button and order your detergent. You can order your groceries. So the Internet of Things is actually allowing you to do real-time ordering, plus many other things, but it's just an example. But with our customers in the public sector space, they have some real mission types of activities that they're doing, including everything from tanks and fighter jets to turbine engines, sensor grids, police wearables, health monitoring devices, and many more. So these are coming from all types of devices through many different partners and services where they're saying, there's volumes and volumes of data being amassed, and I need to be able to analyze that and act on it. You heard about some of these things, obviously, from Debbie, what they're doing at the Michael J. Fox Foundation. But the one thing that's happening is smart cities. In smart cities, they're building out new tools from utility grids to transportation, where they're requiring, through their technology, to not only collect, but again, quickly analyze and know how do they act on this for better citizen services activities. So if you think about the connection points that we've been making this morning already, everything from open data to connectedness, right, to being able to evaluate these tools and analyze them. So if you have all this data and you open it up, think about the possibilities of individuals who can come and actually find a needle in the haystack that was never possible in the past. Now, tomorrow, you're going to hear about some innovative cities because it's going to be our 3rd year of announcing our winners for City on a Cloud. And believe it or not, 3 years ago, we said, let's do this challenge for cities because cities is truly the hub of innovation today. They are moving faster, and they're looking for new ways to create economic growth and create and generate jobs. And in fact, there's been 2 or 3 new studies. 1776 just did a study on the top cities that are innovating, and that they basically say the same thing, they're the next big hub. But with all that being said, our customers do not want to settle for the status quo anymore. And that's why all of you are in this room. Who shows up in the Washington, D.C. area for a tech conference like this? You do, because you don't want the status quo anymore. You want real change, and you want to change fast, and you want to change at scale without being bounded. Now, how are our customers changing? If you've been to our public sector summit before, I've talked about this a little bit, but I thought I would share again today the patterns of how we've seen public sector customers adopt a model for cloud that's successful. Of course, there's always the devil in the details, but this is really the framework that we've seen. For those of you who remember Vivek Kundra, I still talk about him, because Vivek created something called a cloud-first policy, which you've heard being talked about. But at the same time he created a cloud-first policy, there was a definition of cloud that shaped. And NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, created a definition of cloud, which we supported and helped them define. And they've been great. They still try to evolve that. But then there was a security and a compliance regime. And the first one was called FISMA. Didn't work too well for cloud, did it? So then they said, let's create something else, which was called FedRAMP. So FedRAMP, we talked about it today, and it continues to evolve. Now, FedRAMP is not perfect, but let me tell you something about FedRAMP. 2 things. Around the world, people look at FedRAMP today, and enterprise customers are actually using FedRAMP as a model to assess their own compliance for cloud, because there's really no other true model that's been created, and it's pretty in-depth. So FedRAMP is pretty widely adopted, and we're seeing other countries, like I said, taking advantage of it. Oh, I'm going to go back for a minute. On the NIST definition of cloud, here's how important that has been. We've actually responded to RFPs around the world that start their procurement with the NIST definition of cloud. Not in the U.S., but in many places around the world. Now think about that. So that's why I share this model. The U.S. was an early mover in how they thought about cloud. But then there was the acquisition process. That was hard, and it's still hard. Because believe it or not, we get asked the question more, how do we procure the cloud versus security? So security is not the top thing that we talk about anymore. We actually talk about the acquisition model. And I think I'm going to do this right, because I'm going to go here and then I'm going to ask them to go back to that slide again. Because I want to share with you, fast forward, there are now lots of cloud-friendly procurement models. And the reason I like to share this is because don't be out there on your own. Understand and share best practices with agencies and groups on how they created a cloud-friendly model. So do you mind to go back, please, to the slide before? Thank you. So we talked about acquisition, then skills and culture. This is so important, the skills and culture. We, I think, underestimated in the early days how important skills and culture. That's the reason you're here. This is a learning conference. You're here to learn, take advantage, network, find out from each other what's working, take training classes from AWS. And then you have to be able to adjust internally. When I talk to leaders like Laverne and I say, what's your biggest challenge to cloud adoption? They'll say, a lot of times it's culture. People will just say, can't do that in the cloud. It's just sort of your standard thing they'll say if they don't know what to do. And then last but not least is just broad adoption, really how customers adopt the cloud when they move forward. So again, lots of devils in the details here, but I just wanted to share actually how customers, what is the model that they use to actually adopt the cloud. So in adopting the cloud, what does that journey look like? Well, a lot of people will say, okay, AWS, can you tell us exactly the journey? Like, how do we do it? What's the secret sauce? Well, I wish there was an exact secret sauce, but guess what? Everybody's journey is a little bit different. We have seen customers like we talked about today, like FINRA, they're just all in. They're moving everything, they're going fast, and they're doing massive mission workloads out of the gate. And then you see others, they're like, got to dip my toe in, got to try a website. So everyone's journey is very different. But what I wanted to share, whether it's test and dev, website hosting, mobile applications to massive moves of data centers, we are here to support your move. Whatever you're doing and how you're doing it, that's what our team is here to do, and the entire ecosystem of partners that you have. And these are just a variety of ways that we can help you with that journey. And why I wanted these up here is because it's really important for you to understand there's tools and resources available to you that we're going to help you along, whether it's our AWS Answers program. We have tons of enterprise accelerators. We have our trusted advisor I told you about, reference architectures to support services, training and certification, solution architect, and professional services. And by the way, Forbes just had the top tech certifications listed, and the AWS Solution Architect, #1. The #1 most valued certification out there is the AWS Solution Architect. Very highly valued. They said, I think in the article, that as an entry, as a solution architect, you can make up to $125,000. Amazing. And we hear people say to us, an AWS certification is very valuable to them because they want these people in their organizations, and when they train them, it helps them retain them. So with that, who's migrating? Well, we talked about in the early days, no one's going to use us for the enterprise, only little startups, no government agencies. And this is a list of now just companies that have made mass migrations to the cloud. Very large institutions around the world. Now, here's another group that's gone all in, and boy, are they global. So one of our customers here, the World Bank, they are going all in on the cloud, and I'd like to introduce now, welcome her to the stage, please, from the World Bank Group, Stephanie von Friedberg. Stephanie, please welcome to the stage.
So good morning, everyone, and Teresa, thank you very much for this invitation. In looking back at my time as the World Bank Group CIO, I don't think I ever could have envisioned this day, especially not speaking to 7,500 people on a panel with so many fabulous women. So it is an honor and a privilege to be here. Many of you have heard of the World Bank, but many of you don't know what we actually do. We are not a bank in the very traditional sense of the word. We don't give people mortgages, we don't hold consumer checking accounts. Rather, we're an organization that was founded at the end of the Second World War. And like many other UN organizations, we were founded by treaty. But our mission was very special. Our mission was to rebuild Europe and Japan. We originally had 23 member countries. Today, 71 years later, we have 189 member countries. And like the evolution of our shareholder base, our mission has moved as well. At the end of the mid-1970s, we had all but reconstructed Europe and Japan. And so we pivoted our organization to look at the poorer countries. And today we are one of the largest sources of assistance to countries who support the poorest of the poor. And we do that through 5 subsidiaries working with both the public and the private sector. So I was excited to become the World Bank Group CIO. But when I took the job, I realized the organization had spent the better part of the last 10 years not investing in technology. Nothing really worked well. Everything was kind of bubblegummed and shoestringed together. To give you a sense, we had a 17-year-old on-premise, heavily customized email system. And the worst part about it was we weren't helping those end users. Those World Bank Group staff who live in and travel to some of the most difficult and hard-to-reach countries on earth. Just last year alone, our staff made 250,000 trips, oftentimes to countries where connectivity is extremely poor. This came honestly to light for me about 6 months into my time as the World Bank Group CIO. I went to Mongolia to speak at a Young Leaders Conference, and when I travel like that, I tend to drop into our country offices just to see how the IT is really functioning. And a young task team leader in Ulaanbaatar said to me, "Stephanie, would you like to see our modern operations portal in action?" And I said, "Well, yeah, sure, show me how it works." So she booted up the application. We went to lunch. She came back, and it was still loading the 800 fields of data from our systems of record in Washington, D.C. And that's when I said to myself, we have a really serious problem, and we need to change the way we give our staff information. In a novel and innovative way, we needed to make it available anytime, anywhere, and from any device. Now, about this same time, the current president of the World Bank, Jim Kim, became the president. And he came into the bank with two really audacious goals. The first was to alleviate poverty by 2030. That means making sure that no one in the world lives on less than $1.25 a day. The second audacious goal was to create shared prosperity. And by shared prosperity, he meant taking the bottom 40% in any country and continuing to lift them up so they never fall back into abject poverty. So I said to Jim, "This is really great. These are wonderful, audacious goals. We're never going to get there with the technology that we have today. We need modern technology and technology that's fit for purpose." Now, luckily for me, Jim is a bit of a techie himself. He understood what I was asking for, and he gave us the green light to go ahead. So my team and I sat down, and we created a very detailed, very innovative strategy, tied very closely to those twin goals. But when we took a step back, we said to ourselves, this is incredible vision, but without the right implementation plan, we're never going to make this a reality. So we've spent the last 3.5 years executing on that plan. We have ripped out and upgraded almost every single application and platform in the bank, and we've completely changed the technology landscape. So think back to that task team leader in Mongolia. How could it be that we could give her the data that she needed anytime, anywhere, from any device? And how could we make sure that she didn't have to dial back through a tiny little wire to a DC-centric, heavily customized application? Answering those questions required us to rethink the connectivity we provided to our country offices, the devices we were giving our staff, the applications we were developing and maintaining, the data centers we had, and perhaps most importantly, how could we use the cloud? And we really knew we needed to create a renaissance in IT at the World Bank Group. But having a cloud-first strategy and having cloud-first as a pillar in that strategy was not easy. Remember, when we started 4 years ago, there were no other UN organizations in the cloud. There were no multilateral banks working in the cloud. And even worse, there were no commercial banks or investment banks doing anything in the cloud. So when I went to our senior management and said, we really need to move the bank to the cloud, it was met with quite a lot of skepticism. In fact, one of the lawyers said to me, "Well, Stephanie, that would be like taking every bit of confidential information the World Bank Group had, packing it into a cardboard box, writing free on it, and putting it on the curb." And I said, well, it's not quite like that. It's a little different. So we got to the crux of the matter, and the crux of the matter really is about protecting our privileges and immunities. So I said at the beginning we were created by treaty. And what that allows us is that our files and our vaults are impenetrable by local law enforcement. You cannot subpoena the World Bank Group for information. So when I started talking about taking our data outside of our data center, outside of our firewall, our lawyers got a little uneasy. What we were required to do was actually work with outside counsel, and slowly but surely we put together a legal frame that our lawyers got comfortable with, our business was excited about it, and we were ready to begin to innovate technology in the bank in a way that we hadn't seen since we connected our country offices globally. First, we moved our email. We had, when we started, 186 servers in 186 country offices hosting our email. To me, that attack surface was more dangerous than putting our email in the cloud. We also had a substantial amount of adopted but unsanctioned use of cloud applications, primarily for file sync and share. Because if you go back to those 250,000 trips that our staff were taking, they wanted to be effective and efficient wherever they were in the world. And so they were using tools that they found that were helpful to them. So we became one of the very first NGO-like organizations to adopt a file sync and share, a corporate off-the-shelf file sync and share. And it was met with such enthusiasm that today we're adding about 3 terabytes of data to that platform a week. And we're now looking at the platform saying, what else could it do for us besides file sync and share? So for those of you who haven't moved to the cloud yet, you're probably thinking a bit daunting. File sync and share, email. I remember when I took my job as the CIO, someone said to me, there are 2 ways to lose your job as a CIO. One is to have a security breach, and the second is to change people's emails. But I'm here to tell you, that was the easy stuff. It truly was the low-hanging fruit. And now that we've gotten into the cloud, with AWS and some of our other partners, we're doing fabulous things. Think back to that monolithic application, great big, in a data center in Washington, D.C. We're now taking all of those applications and ripping them apart and building very, very small, single-purpose applications powered by microservices. We're re-architecting all of our applications and delinking the end-user experience from the system of record in Washington, D.C. Again, making them faster and more efficient for our staff in the field. We're giving our economists in the cloud, on demand, massive compute power. This is allowing them to take data sets, very disparate and large data sets, geospatial data sets, sensor data ships, mobile phone data, and mash it together in ways we never thought possible to help us do one thing, find better development solutions. And we're doing all of this for the end user in mind, knowing that they can go seamlessly from a PC to a tablet and to a phone. In essence, what we're building is a brand new World Bank Group. All 250 of our major applications will be securely placed in the cloud. And we have found that working in the AWS environment has done many things for us. It's given us access to security tools we never had. It's allowing us to use containerization. And probably most importantly, what it's giving us is access to state-of-the-art applications that would have been too complex to bring into our environment and to replace what we already had. So you've heard me talk a bit about the cloud, and you're getting the idea that our original idea, save money, become more agile, secure our data, these are all things that we've found possible in the cloud. But there were a couple of things that we didn't see coming. The first learning came to us in Afghanistan. So we have a compound in Afghanistan. We hold 125 of our staff in the compound in Kabul. Shortly after we gave people file sync and share in the cloud and email in the cloud, we needed to evacuate our team from Kabul and take them to a city in the north where we had never operated before. Luckily for us, our country director had said to all of those staff, hey, use these new tools instead of or in lieu of using those shared drives in the office. About the same time, we had started to play with some cloud-based unified communication tools, and we were able to take all 125 of those staff from Kabul to the north, and in 24 hours, they were fully functional. You'll remember in April of last year, Nepal was hit with an earthquake of 7.9 magnitude. I happened to be in northern India at the time, and we were hearing of casualties, building collapses, and other chaos. Only a few days before that earthquake, my technology team again had started to play with some unified communication tools in the cloud. And within hours, we were able to ensure that our staff and their families were safe. And as soon as we could provide backup generation, once again, they had access to their emails and their files from wherever they were in Nepal. Very similarly, in Burundi in May of last year, there was a military coup, and all of the UN agencies had to evacuate their staff immediately. Now, in a situation like this, I would have had to have said to my IT coordinator, go back to the office, pull our servers, physically take them on the airplane. We're flying everyone to Nairobi, reinstall those servers in our office in Nairobi. This might have taken a week, 2 weeks before we actually had our staff up and functional. In this case, in Burundi, we wiped the servers remotely. We made sure everybody left the country with a mobile device. We had offices for them in the Nairobi office, and they were ready to work within 24 hours. So for us, the cloud has brought some very unexpected benefits as well. So as an IT leader of 1,200 people, I never would have believed that the cloud would have created the creative energy and drive for change that it has at the World Bank Group. Today, when I meet staff, as opposed to when I started, they talk to me about how excited they are about the cloud, and particularly AWS, because it's helping us solve backup and storage and disaster recovery, but it's also helping us figure out how we can get better citizen feedback for the countries that we're working on with our projects. And now that we're in the cloud, I wouldn't say we're in the cloud. We continue to innovate, we continue to learn, and we continue to experiment. But at the same time, the world has seen more natural disasters in the last few years than we've seen in decades. Climate change is affecting everything that the bank is doing. And the world is experiencing the largest refugee crisis that we have seen in modern history. These things are making alleviating poverty that much more difficult for us. And with the world economy in a very unstable place, actually meeting those twin goals, alleviating poverty and creating shared prosperity, is getting harder and harder. I truly believe, having watched our evolution in the cloud, the unexpected benefits of the cloud will continue to help us. They're going to allow us to change technology and truly help us find ways to alleviate poverty by 2030. Thank you. This is the middle. What do you know?
So here's your innovators button. Can
Thank
you
you.
believe what she is doing at World Bank? This is phenomenal. We're going to change the world.
We
I
are.
love it. We're
We
changing
are.
the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
so
We'll see
much.
you.
Thank you. All right, we're in the home stretch. Now, let's talk about making the world a better place. Obviously, you just heard it. We have so much to do. We're just getting started with the World Bank. Really, really love our speakers we've had today. But what are we doing to make the world a better place? Well, we talk a lot about economic development and jobs creation, but we are really doing this in some innovative ways. When I started this presentation, we talked a lot about how the individual developer that we were seeing around the world was really creating new opportunities. Well, we're doing things uniquely with governments now around the world. We are doing things like we created a partnership with the Economic Development Board of Bahrain and our partner C5 to create an accelerator and a scalerator for both existing businesses that are in the Middle East, but also to help do training and education there. So we've gotten tremendous uptick on that. We also have created an innovation center with the city of Busan in South Korea, And we just announced an accelerator in China. And you're going to see more and more. And we also have some specialized innovation centers that we're doing with some of our customers. But this is just an example of what we're doing around the world today. With all that being said, we're also doing a lot to create and fill the gap for jobs. And we launched a program in April of last year called AWS Educate. And AWS Educate is about tackling that job skills gap around the world so that we can actually create new opportunities. And with that, we not only have created the program where we have hundreds of universities and thousands of professors now taking advantage of the program, but we've also created a program called it's a new starter program for AWS Educate that allows not only those individuals that are using a standard model for AWS Educate, but they can also use a no credit card model now. We have some beautiful students here today from Maryland. Can you guys stand up? Say hi to everybody. We have a few young students here. Yay! I'm so happy they're here. So I was at my exercise class 2 weeks ago, and one of my partners was in there with me, and she runs up to me, she goes, "Teresa, I'm bringing students." I was like, "Great, bring them up front." So hopefully next year we'll have a lot more students here because you are our future. So I hope you learn a lot from our programs, and everybody talk to them and tell them about all the careers in tech. So, all right. Now, we have had we try to get our bearings a little about how do we do fellowship programs with government. And we have two programs that we've been doing. One is with the U.S. Department of Defense, and the other one is with the U.S. State Department, where we brought on fellows to actually work with Amazon Web Services so we can do a transfer of skills with these fellows, and they can learn. And we've had groups from the Army and the Air Force, and we have an amazing woman today from the State Department working with us on these programs. So we hope to continue to create these fellowship programs so we can do a transfer of knowledge. And the one thing I've heard a lot from both our government customers and even congressional leaders is that we need to do more as large companies to do skills transfer and learning so that we can really take individuals in and out and around government so they can understand how we work and we can understand how they work more. All right. Now, this is a program that's near and dear to my heart, and it's something we call here #SmartIsBeautiful. And I'm looking at Goldie Kamali here because Goldie about 3 years ago asked me to moderate a panel for a session with FedScoop. And I said, okay, I will, but only if we come up with something that's actionable. No more women's panels unless we're actually doing something. So I asked the women, there are 3 government female leaders, and we came up with #SmartIsBeautiful. So it's something that I've been taking around the world and talking to other women about to create action for diversity to get more young women and females in tech. And I have someone with me today. Miss Izzy is going to come to the stage and help me talk about this slide. Come on up, Izzy. Look at this. Say hi to Izzy. Say hi, Izzy.
Hi.
Love this t-shirt. Look at that. Wow. All right, so Izzy, we're going to tell everybody why STEM is important. Can you tell us the first reason?
We need more women in the STEM fields.
All right, and we obviously need diversity in the workplace because it matters, right?
Yeah.
What's another reason?
Actions speak louder than words.
Actions speak louder than words, that's right. So Izzy, can you tell everybody what grade you're in and what school you go to?
I'm going into 6th grade. My name is Izzy Muffet. I go to Lafayette Elementary in DC.
Good. Do you like tech?
Yeah.
I hear you're doing a little coding yourself these days. All right, good. All right, push this. All right. Well, there it comes. And I think we're going to ask everybody to join the movement. Can you say join the movement? Say it loud. Join the movement.
Join the movement.
All right. And I think we have some women coming up because we want everybody to get involved. So come on up. We need everybody to join the movement. And we need, see, we have these young girls over here. So what we're asking of you today is just to actually encourage young girls, young women to take advantage in tech and to really understand that it can be an important part of what they're doing with their career and their workplace. But we're also having a women's in tech panel today at 2:30, so I hope you all will enjoy and join us in for that as well. So thank you, ladies. Here, stand up here, let's get a photo. Say hi. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Izzy. Thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody, you have an action. Find someone that you can mentor, help them understand why tech is important, and it's a great career for all. All right, now, we actually are in the home stretch. So, reinvent and repeat. Cloud is absolutely the new normal. You cannot fight gravity. So you all are here today to learn, to invent, and to reinvent and repeat.